Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to enjoy the gentleman we're interviewing today. He's a very warm man and got a $20 million multifamily portfolio, 350 units. His name is Ramakrishna Menon, and he goes by Menon. And we're very lucky to have him on the show today. Menon, welcome, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Rod. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure, and I'm grateful that you took the time to be on the show. So let's talk about, I know that you didn't start out in real estate. I think you were in Silicon Valley. I'd love to hear how, where you came from and how you got into this exciting business. So please share that.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm from Silicon Valley. I'm a high-tech entrepreneur. So I've been in software for pretty much my entire life. I did my bachelor's in computer science from IIT, did my master's here in US, and joined Oracle, which is a huge company, like competitor of Microsoft. I was in Oracle, I was in Netflix, and it was during Netflix that I had the bug to do my own startup, and I went on to do 5 of them and sold one of them. But the thing is that most of them were more of a struggle. I learned a lot, but didn't make a lot of financial success, right? So my last startup was on financial financial savings, and it didn't go well, and that was kind of a down period for me, because that was the last startup and I had run out of kind of the bandwidth and runway. So I went back and joined another company, another startup, but as an employee, and kind of like figured out that I don't want to work for somebody else, even though they were great people. I appreciated them, and decided that, okay, I want to do something, but I was stuck. I did not know what to do. So what I did was, which I would recommend everyone should do when they are in such situations, is I actually asked for help. Basically, I went for personal coaching with another organization that I had already got pretty good results from. And from that emerged, for the first time in my life, basically clear priority on what I want to do in my life. And the first one was financial freedom. And then I hired another coach to get to financial freedom. And he kind of forced me to choose 2 paths, and one of them was software, big data. The other one was real estate. I just picked it up, randomly, because I had heard good things about real estate. That's all I knew, and that's how I started into real estate. And
so you got a personal coach, like a life coach. It sounds like that. Yes. somebody to hold you accountable and push you. And he said, either go do software or don't go do real estate. And so you decided real estate. And I will tell you, coaching is fantastic. I mean, I've had coaches for decades, life coaches, business coaches, high performance coaches. And, I became a high performance coach actually, and got certified in last year, and love it. It's part of my real estate coaching platform. And I teach mindset and hold people accountable and all those things. So that's awesome that you did that. And then you decided real estate. So talk about how that progressed. I think you told me before we started recording that you did single family. Is that right?
Sure. So the real estate decision also didn't happen like right away. Initially, I had 2 tracks. I was trying to do 2 things together. One was the big data, and I had some plans on the big data, and I started real estate. And I think I completely agree with you on mentorship and coaching. It's just mind blowing to me that people don't do it often. I'm a big believer in mindset. I'm a big believer in coaching, mentorship, and it's a no-brainer to me. Once you know what you want in life, it's a no-brainer to find the best coach and engage with them, right? So in terms of real estate, I started with single family flip, and the first thing I did was I attended some courses. Some of them were not great, but they gave me enough confidence to start looking for deals. And I started looking for deals in Bay Area, and I went really fast. One of the things that changed in my life was I said, okay, I'm going to do everything fast. I'm not going to overthink. I will do things fast. I'll take action, and if I fail, that's fine, right? So I made 4 offers within maybe 2 months here in Bay Area, and every time I was outbid by somebody. So I decided, okay, what next? I basically, again, you would probably laugh, but I decided, okay, I need to get out of Bay Area. So I went and did a Google search and just clicked on the first article, picked up the top 10 states, and went to Zillow and picked up like a few real estate brokers, right, on single family, top, middle, and all that, and just started calling them. And I called probably 50 of them, and I found one or two of them, and one of them was in New Jersey, in a place called Ramsey, and she turned out to be very professional. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a good deal with her, and I did an entire deal in the next 8 months completely remotely while I was working here. I didn't even go and see the property, and it was pretty good profit.
So you bought a single family house in New Jersey,
flipped it. Basically,
flipped it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Flipped it within 8 months. Yeah.
You flipped a property from San Francisco in New Jersey. Holy cow. Wow. That's very unusual, actually. Typically, flipping is done in your backyard. Well, good for you. So you're able to make it work. So how did you progress from that into multifamily? Talk about, what the thought process was, because if you were successful, you made some money, I take it, on your flip.
Yes, I did make some money. I mean, to answer your question, once I made some money, that's when I decided that I'm going to focus on real estate. I decided to not focus on big data. I decided to focus on real estate. Okay. And then I did a couple other flips here. And then the thought process was, okay, I can do this, but what is next? Right. And I did some research, and I just saw more dollars in front of commercial. So I decided to go for commercial. And again, my process was very fast. Once I decided to go commercial, I looked for a mentor and searched for a mentor, and found actually one mentor here in Bay Area. And I decided to sign up for that. And then something happened where I decided to switch mentors and found one in Dallas, as you know.
Okay. And so you found a real estate mentor, and you got trained on apartment investing. And what year did you take down your properties? Because I think you told me you've got two large properties, 108 units and 240 units. When did you take those down?
So both of them were actually last year. So July and August, right? So both of them were almost simultaneous closing.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that's pretty challenging to take down your first large property and have it actually be two of them. What was the equity raise on those two deals combined?
Was around 5.7 million.
Wow. So you raised 5.7 million. How did you make that happen from single family to raising 5.7 million for your first two multifamily deals? How did that take place? Tell me how you found that many investors.
Yeah. So just to be, so it's always a teamwork, right? It was not just me. It was my partner, Ajay.
Okay.
And for one of the deals, we had two other people involved who also helped us raise money. So most of the money was raised by Ajay and myself.
I see.
So the first thing to do for the first deal is stepping back, right? When you are going for a multi-million-dollar deal, I think, again, it's, in my opinion, a no-brainer, is to find somebody who's got a track record, right? So because imagine the seller, he's going to sell a property which is like 10 million, 20 million, and he's looking at a bunch of people, and one of them doesn't have any track record of closing. He or she will not.
Yeah, you don't have a chance. So you aligned yourself with someone that had done this before. So you brought him in as a sponsor.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
I brought him in as a sponsor, and I was both of us were lead sponsors. I also raised money, and he also raised money. Right. And together we were able to take it down. An elephant that looks too big, but when you have.
Yeah, sure. No, and that's how everybody does this. Now, let me ask you this: did you invest passively before this in anybody's deal, or did you go straight into an active deal?
So I did invest passively just to make sure that the whole thing is real. I did two investments passively. In the second one, I was a KP2. So I kind of like stepped through passive.
So you did have some progression here. Okay, I'm glad I asked. So, and this is a common progression. You start by investing passively in someone's deal, and then you actually get that experience on your resume. It shows up on your resume as experience that you're involved in that deal. And so you went from a passive investment to being a KP in somebody else's deal. Did you just raise money for it? Is that what you did?
No, I didn't raise any money for it. It was just a loan guarantor. So
you were a loan guarantor. So you lended your balance sheet basically, and got a little piece of general partnership for bringing the balance sheet to the deal. Okay. And and then you did these two large simultaneous deals, one in Dallas and one in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, fantastic! And so, so talk about, back to the equity raise, because that's a significant equity raise. But everybody contributed. So your partner AJ, you, and the other KP all raised money.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do to find the investors? Did you go to real estate meetups? Did you where did you find that kind of an equity raise? Because
that's a great question, and I think one thing that I forgot while I was looking for deals, because I struggled a lot to find my first two deals, and I was so focused on getting finding deals that I never focused on raising money. And suddenly I had this huge raise on my hand along with my partners, right? And I was fortunate that I'm pretty well known in Bay Area. I'm not well known, but people know me here, especially Indian community. I'm into music, so I have a circle of music friends. I'm into real estate, startups, MBA, right? So there is a lot of different communities.
So you've got a lot of connections.
Okay. I have a lot of connections, yeah. So that was very helpful. So, and plus the multifamily product, if you find people who are trusting, and Bay Area has a lot of high net worth individuals, right? So that helps.
Sure.
And they trust me, obviously, and then once they looked at the product and the kind of returns that you can get, it
made sense. Okay, no, that's fantastic. So you were in the right place, definitely, to springboard this business. What's next? What are you actively looking right now? Any LOIs out? Is there a market you're targeting? Tell me what's up for you now.
Absolutely. So one thing is that I'm doing this full time. Even though I'm in Silicon Valley, I left my job almost 2 years back now, and I decided to focus fully on that, because one reason was that I don't invest locally in San Francisco Bay Area. I invest in faraway markets, and for me to be seriously considered as a buyer, I have to go there and tour properties, right?
Right.
So before my first deal, I probably toured maybe 40, 50 properties before I got my first deal, and I was in Atlanta quite often. So the next, I definitely am looking for deals. That's all I do. This is my full-time job, like I mentioned. And I in the past 6 months, I probably have come very, very close to getting 6 deals. And almost always the reason is that the other person pays a little bit more than you, and you lose the deal. It's a very competitive market at this point, as you probably know.
Sure.
Yeah, I just submitted an LOI yesterday, so I'm actively submitting LOIs and looking for deals. Another thing I'm doing is that I might branch out to a third submarket. So I'm considering Colorado and potentially Utah.
Colorado, that's my backyard. Very, very hot market. A very exciting market, but definitely a very hot market. I used to own 500 houses in Denver that I rented out long term, and probably about a dozen actually apartment buildings, and that was a market that I grew up there. I went to high school there. I'm going to my 40-year reunion there in 2 weeks. In Denver.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah. So if you need some inside tips on Denver, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll tell you what I know. I used to be able to name every street all the way across Denver, miles and miles, because they're alphabetical, so they're easy to remember. But
thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So let me ask you this: in your partnership, with you and AJ, because this comes up regularly, what are your strengths? I mean, I think I know the answer, but I don't want to assume anything. And what are his strengths?
I would say that I think my biggest strength, frankly, was the fact that I was full-time focused, right? I mean, it's not a strength, it's the way that I decided to go about it, right? So full-time focus means that I spend more time and more effort. AJ's strength is that even though he's doing his work, whatever time he spends, he's very efficient, and he's always there, during the closing. And I think one important thing about the partner is that it's not like we went back. There was no history, right? So when there is no history and you do a business venture, there is a chance that when something goes wrong, you kind of start blaming each other. In our case, I think we were fortunate that at least during the closing and all, we went through lots of ups and downs, and we were together, and we never, we kept each other, supported, and that's the reason why we were able to close the deal.
Have you divided work roles? Do you focus on one piece of it? Does he focus on another?
Well, at this point, actually, we are working separately. But in the beginning, I was the guy who was doing the analysis and also touring the deals and all that. And he was bringing something very critical, which was the track record, right? So he has a track record. He was bringing that and his experience, right?
Okay.
So the combined, that's
okay.
That's,
so he's done this before. So was he the sponsor then? Is that
no. Both of us were lead sponsors. Yeah.
Okay, you were. Okay.
Partners, yeah.
Okay. Well, what I was getting at is that sometimes in a partnership, you'll find one of the people is really the data cruncher, the analyst, and the other one is really more the face of the organization. They're the ones that do most of the equity raising and things like that. And I know you did a lot of that, so I didn't know if that dynamic was in play. So maybe not yours.
Yeah, that was not in the place. In our case, it was kind of like both of us were raising money. He was bringing track record, which helped us get the deal.
Okay.
And analytics part, mostly I was the one who was doing the analytics part. So
okay. So let me ask you this: in these two deals that you did, are these value add plays? Did you do unit renovations? What sorts of things are you doing at these properties or have done?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, both of them are value add. I still look for only value add deals, and obviously both of them are different stories. So the one in Fort Worth is a 108 unit deal, and it used to be called Carlton, and it was a pretty distressed property in the sense that the owner had kind of neglected it, and many people were leaving, and there were a lot of not very good tenants there. So we basically turned around the property pretty much. It was actually going to be, I think, almost like So long story short, we turned around the property, we rebranded the property, we painted it, we renovated the leasing office, we of course did interior upgrades and are getting more than what we projected at this point, and we cleaned up the tenant base. That was, I think, the biggest thing that we did. There were lots of tenants, and the greatest part of the whole thing is that I'm really proud of is, and both of us, Ajay and myself, is that when we talked to the property managers, a lot of the old tenants who had left the property, they came back because they saw the property was completely different.
That is very cool. That's very admirable. That people left because they were frustrated and then they came back when they saw the improvements. That's awesome. That is you should be proud of that. So how about the 240 unit in Atlanta? The
240 units in Atlanta, again the same thing, value add. So we rebranded. We spent quite a bit of money in doing exterior painting. We did the clubhouse, the whole office was a pretty big space, but it looked like a funeral home, and we completely changed the look of it. It looks really good now. We added a dog park. We did a bunch of interior renovations. We are still doing interior renovations. And what else did we do? We just decided to not rent the laundry. So we are purchasing our own laundry equipment. We, in fact, signed the contract maybe 2 days back to purchase laundry. That will increase our revenue. We'll double the laundry revenue, and we are not using coins anymore, right? So we upgraded. So all the usual stuff that you can think of, I think we pretty much touched both of them, and we are looking at some other avenues for adding income in both these areas too.
Okay, so you allow pets. I assume you charge pet rent, so that's revenue as well. Okay, all right. Are these B or C assets?
They are C assets. Both of them are C assets.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And if you had to do it over, I mean, you haven't been in this a very long time. Last year you bought these big properties, and you were passive before that. But if knowing what you know now, might you have done anything differently? If you were talking to your 30-year-old self or your 25-year-old self, is there anything you might have done differently?
So if you're talking just about multifamily,
Yes, multifamily specifically. Yes.
yeah. So multifamily, I've been in this for the past maybe 3 years now, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, definitely. I got some things right. I got a mentor, so
Right.
those that I think is the biggest mistake that people make, which I
Right.
do, right? But one thing that I would definitely would have done differently is that I would have started raising money much earlier, right? I got into this crunch mode towards the end, and so like even the moment you, let's say you pick your mentor, whoever it is,
Right.
I think the first thing that anyone can start doing is start raising money, and you
start getting soft commitments and
exactly.
I just in one of our I've coaching students, and we in one of the coaching calls we taught them all how to create a sample deal package, and we gave them a template and just to create an example of a deal. And then you can, if somebody wants to look at something, you can say, hey, if we find a deal that looks like this, are you interested? And you can use it as something to describe a deal to someone that doesn't understand how they're structured as well. But that can, I couldn't agree more. You should start, you should be simultaneously looking to raise money while you're learning the business and while you're out there looking for deals. So what do you think is the most challenging part of this business that you've encountered so far?
So in my case, I would say the timing that I have, right? It's a much tougher market. Like if I had started maybe even 3 years back or even maybe 2 years earlier, it would have been much easier.
Right.
But, I think that it's never really easy. It looks easy on hindsight. And so I guess, so timing would be my biggest thing, the biggest challenge. And what I mean by that is that I get lots of deals. I am never able to analyze all the deals that I get, but the deal flow, right? The percentage of deals that you actually get a hit on. I mentioned that I've been looking full time for the past 6-7 months.
Right.
Came very close to 6 deals, but and part of the reason is I'm looking in very, very competitive markets. DFW and Atlanta both are extremely competitive.
Sure, and you're picking Denver. It's probably going to be one of the more competitives as well, for sure.
Yeah. I'll probably not go to Denver. I'll probably look at Colorado Springs and suburbs.
Okay. That's smart.
I'm wise enough not to touch Denver.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But in general, I would say my experience is colored by the fact that I was in extremely competitive environments. So my goal in the next few months is to make the deal funnel so that I'm getting more deals that are viable. Right at this point, in DFW and Atlanta, that hit ratio, I get lots of deals, but I'm not able to get into contract.
Do you think people are overpaying right now?
That's a great question, and I think sometimes I can clearly see they are overpaying.
Yeah, because I have definitely seen it. That's why I'm just curious if you're seeing it as well, and it scares me a little bit, because if there's an issue when we're going to have a contraction. You may, I don't know if you've gone through a real estate contraction or where what your real estate picture was in 2008, but let's pray it's not anything like that again, but. It's going to happen. I mean, real estate goes through cycles. I've been through several of them already, and so it's inevitable. And I feel like I scratch my head sometimes when I see what some of these properties are trading at, and I'm scared for some of those passive investors, frankly, because you just never know what could happen if the market. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, one reason I'm not getting any deals, one of the reasons is that I'm not bidding enough, right? I can get a deal tomorrow if I want to. But
sure. Yeah, the deal. Yeah, there's always a deal. It's just whether it makes sense or not. So let me ask you this: talk about. I call them seminars. We don't call them failures or setbacks. We call them seminars because we learn from them. But talk about a time you might have gotten your nose bloodied in this business. Maybe it was on one of these two deals, something happened, and maybe what you learned from it, or maybe it was the single family, or maybe you haven't had one in real estate. I don't know, but most people have had some setbacks. Can you think of one in particular that could add value?
Absolutely. I can think of many.
Okay.
Good. I think the one that comes to my mind is in single family. So what happened was, and I think it's more instructive also to go through that one. So when I left my job, I thought that I have all the time in the world, right? And I thought I can do everything. So I was doing single family at that time. And at that time, I was also learning multifamily from a mentor. And when I left my job, I said, I'll do multifamily, but I will also do single family flip. And that was a huge mistake. So what happened was that one of my later flips, the last flip, there while a contractor was working here on my flip, I was looking for deals in DFW. And that was a huge mistake because that guy took me to cleaner. I mean, he basically robbed me, right? And that led me to making my first loss in real estate. Part of the reason was that particular submarket for some reason went down, and even one of the most experienced persons that I know of made a loss after 12 years. So it was not just the contractor, but everything that kind of added to my.
But the message, correct me if I'm wrong here, is focus.
Exactly.
And focus is power. And when you dilute your focus, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I have the shiny penny syndrome. Sounds like you do a little bit as well. And,
Absolutely.
You see an opportunity and the head turns and I've actually built 24 businesses and so, but I can tell you the times that I've really suffered is when I've tried to bite off too much, when that dilution of focus and everything suffers. Okay, well, that's a great message. I'm glad you used that one as an example. So, why do you think people fail in this business? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would say the single biggest reason has to be that they try to do it without a mentor. I mean, if you don't have a mentor, you are talking about taking millions of dollars from your passive investors, right? I'm talking about like reasonably bigger deals, right?
Sure.
I'm not talking about like 5 units, 10 units. I think you can go 4-plex, 5-plex, but
oh, sure. Those are pretty safe, right?
Yeah, but the moment you start going 20, 30, 40 units, then you want to spend your money. Actually, I would say invest your money and you save time and money by picking a mentor, right? Somebody like you could be great.
Yeah,
right?
no, I act as a mentor and I have mentors, but even if you just find somebody in your local marketplace or wherever you're buying, identify the people that own some properties and reach out to them and start a relationship. And, most people love helping other people, particularly as they get older. They realize, you have two arms or two hands, one to pull yourself up and one to pull somebody up behind you. I think most people genuinely enjoy helping other people, and look to add value to those mentors. Don't just go to take, go to give as well. Everybody has a superpower, and maybe you can add value to them in some way. Okay, no, that's great. And yeah, guys, I couldn't agree more. Get help. It certainly doesn't have to be me, but there's so many resources out there that you want to take advantage of. Now, let me ask you this: is there a book that you gift more often than another?
I think I'm a big believer in mindset. So I read a lot of books on success. I try to figure out, okay, what am I doing that I should not be doing, or I'll realize 1 year later that, hey, why was I doing that, right? So I read a lot of books. So there are several success books that I can recommend.
Please share some titles.
Yeah, so one of them is Mindset. It's written by, it's called Mindset. The other one I can think of right off the top of my head is 10X Rule. I think that's
Grant Cardone's book. Yeah.
It's a very good book in terms of elevating your thinking. I think one of the best ones I would recommend is the hedge fund guy, Ray.
Ray Dalio, Principles.
Oh my God.
That's an amazing book. Yeah. He's quite a guy. That guy, I mean, he's quite a guy. Yeah. And so's Grant. I've had Grant on the show a couple of times. He's a riot. I laughed the entire time I'm on the interview with him, but yeah, Ray Dalio, what a home run that guy is. Holy cow. And by the way, for those of you listening, what he did was he created a book that defines the principles that he uses to make every decision. And it's a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. In fact, I've gifted that book as well myself. Fantastic. So let me ask you this, you're a very intelligent man, and, I have a lot of listeners that know they want to get into this business. They know they deserve more in life. They know that they should take action in this business and make something happen. What sage advice would you give an aspiring real estate investor? Maybe they've got a single family home. Maybe they, just got started, but what advice would you give them?
Absolutely. So, there are several things that I can think of that are very critical. I think the most important thing from my own experience was to really understand what you want in life, right? I mean, I'm just stepping it back, right? Because whatever we do, it's all connected to what we want in life, right? So, I think there are many ways of getting to that goal, but I think that's one of the most important things that most people don't know. If, let's say, I ask someone, what are the top three things you want in life? I bet you that they will kind of give you not a very well thought out answer, right? So family, money, but nothing concrete, right?
Right.
So I would say that's the number one step. If you don't know where you're going, whether you're going to Detroit or New York, you'll probably drift away to wherever the waters take you, right? The second one I would say is that once you know what you want, then the question is how to get what you want, right? There I would say you have to have a few things. One is the mind. The biggest one is mindset. To me, like the mindset shift. Mindset is everything.
So dig in on that just a little bit. By the way, I want to just add emphasis to what you just said about knowing what you want, guys. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to know when you see it? How are you going to get there? It not only do you need to know what you want, it has to be clear and measurable and very, very crystallized in your mind. Clarity is power. You need clarity around what you want. And ideally, you need to know why you want it as well. So, one of the things I do at my live events, the first thing we do is we do this goal setting workshop where we clearly define what we want, but then we clearly define why it's an absolute must as well. So I love that one. But dig in on mindset a little bit for me, please, because I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know very, very successful people who started at the same place where I was, right? So I know that they have done something different. And more I looked at what they are doing and more I read books, I think it was all in your mind. How you can think, like, for example, right? If 3 years back, when I came here, for example, right, my mindset was, I come from a very poor family, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, getting into Oracle was
that's huge. That's huge. Thing, right? Did you ever get to meet Larry?
I saw him many times, but
yeah. What Larry Ellison is the CEO of Oracle, and he's one of the richest men I think he's in the top 5 in the world. But anyway, please continue.
Sorry. So for me, that was a huge thing.
That is huge.
And it took me a while to get to the point where I wanted to start my own company. And that was a huge mind shift, right? Again, starting your own company, leaving a job and all that. So mindset, I think, is the way you approach life, right? Two people could be in the same situation, but one guy is his thinking is much bigger. And so his goals are much bigger, which translates to his actions. His or her actions are much bigger, and hence the results are bigger, right? So mindset, I think, is the starting point of anything that is great.
So how do you push through the fear, Menon? Tell me how you deal with pushing through the fear, because there's always that fear of failure, fear of rejection, all these fears, fear of not being enough. How do you push past that?
That's an interesting thing, because I don't really have that much fear of failure anymore. I used to be very afraid, but I've failed so many times. I think the answer is that you practice, right? You keep acting even despite the fear. And soon you will wonder why you are afraid of it, right? Like,
Love it. And guys, we fail our way to success. The bottom line, there really is no failure. It's a seminar. It's always a learning experience. And just about anybody that's successful has had these seminars, these failures. I mean, I mentioned I built 24 businesses. 20 of them were spectacularly flaming seminars, okay, but 3 were worth tens of millions. So it's we fail our way to success. Mm-hmm. I love it. That's fantastic advice, my friend. Very good. So I
would add a couple other things on the answer to that.
Please.
Make sure. So mindset is the first one. The mentor is the other one, which I already mentioned, right?
Right.
And then the third one, obviously, is you have to take action. And the last one, I think, is not many people do, but I think you should always be aware that you have blind spots, right? All of us have blind spots, right? Which we cannot see, and others can see. So you have to have a mechanism of uncovering blind spot. And the way you do that is, again, you do coaching, you have external input, you align yourself with folks that you want to be like. And so as you align with them, you take actions, and they can help you uncover your blind spots.
Oh, fantastic advice, Menon. Fantastic. And you just don't know what you don't know. And when you have coaching and you have third party input, and you should seek out that feedback. You shouldn't be resistant to that feedback. You should seek it out, like you just said. And that's how you get further, faster, and grow. I'd also like to talk briefly about the difference between success and fulfillment, and how life isn't just about financial success. There are bigger things at play. For example, giving back. Can you speak to that a little bit? What you do to give back to your family, your community, the world. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for that question. I think a person can be, this is my point of view, right? The highest respect I have for the trait is generosity, right? Mm-hmm. Person can be multi-millionaire, whatever, right? But if I see somebody who's not multi-millionaire, but is actually very generous and is thinking of others, my respect, at least for that person, is much bigger than the first example, right? So for the way I do that is in my own small ways. I have I can sketch portraits, right? So I've given many portraits to people.
No kidding! Wow.
I have raised money. During when disaster happens, I've raised money by sketching portraits and just kind of auctioning them on Facebook among my friends. I've done that a few times. In fact, I'm going to sketch probably one of the most famous music directors in Bollywood, who's coming over here, and he's going to be presented with my sketch. I'm going to work on that, and so I'll get something out of that. Those guys will donate something, right? So this comes back to your, I read your PDF that you sent me about yourself, and I really admired the thing that focused my attention was that you are more proud of your charity work, right? Most proud of your charity work. That shows something about yourself, right? And that to me is what really caught my attention. And you have the Tiny Hands Foundation. As I mentioned, I would like to donate some of the money by sketching, and other people who donate money for my art. So that's kind of one of the ways that I contribute.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And yes, it is what I'm most proud of. And I will tell you, there was a period in my life when I wasn't doing that. I was fairly narcissistic and driven by, society's version of success, and felt like I had to prove to the world I was enough. And I had an awakening, really, for lack of a better word. And I will tell you that I came to the realization that success, and I've interviewed very successful people, very wealthy people, billionaires, that frankly, in my definition, aren't successful. They're successful in society's version, but they're unfulfilled because they're not contributing beyond themselves. It's really a very me approach, like I used to have, frankly, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, but it's the truth. And so, those of you listening, and I know you've heard me say it before, but figure out how to give back in some fashion. It doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to, it can just be, you can adopt a family that needs help. You can help an elderly person. You can, do something in your community, and you can just do something for your family. It doesn't matter how you give back. You can buy the person behind you in line at Starbucks a drink, but do something to give, because that's what adds richness to your life. That's true success. And you do not have to wait to do it. You don't have to say, well, when I get successful, I'll do something. Do it now. Because I will tell you, it will contribute to that success. It will enhance and ramp that success, frankly. And so, incorporate it in your life now. And that's what will give your life meaning and richness.
If I may add one more thing there, right? Because please. That's a good topic. I maybe almost 24 years back, I was with a roommate, and I told him that I'm going to give, I can easily give 5% or 10% of my salary to charity. And that guy said, "You're not going to do it." And I said, "I'll do it." I never did it, and I forgot about the whole thing. It was such an important thing, such an important aspect of my life. And only recently I realized that, okay, that was something that I should have done. And, when I did my real estate thing, I promised that 10% of whatever my profit is going to go to charities, right? And I know which charities to. I'm also very careful in picking my charities.
Sure. And you guys, you should be. If you decide to contribute to charities, take a look at how much actually goes to help people, because there are some top heavy charities out there that fly first class around the country and things of that nature. And so just be cognizant of that. But there's a lot of, I think as a human race, we're evolving and we're more focused on giving back than ever in history. And I see, very wealthy and people that are embracing it more and more and more. So it's encouraging to see that. But thank you for your kind words. And I'd love to see a portrait. So I'm going to email you when we hang up. I'd love to see examples of your work, because I'm sure it's extraordinary if you're able to sell it like that. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on the show, Menon. It has been a real treat, and I appreciate you sharing your wisdom, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch, my friend.
Thank you so much, Rod. And I also want to thank my mentor and my partner, Ajay, and shout out to my property manager and Vayner and SMP. Without them, there is no success.
Oh, they're partners. They are partners, and it's kind of you to think of them. All right. Thank you. Take care, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a minute to visit iTunes and leave your comments. For more resources or to connect with us further, please visit our website at rodkhleif.com. Tune in next week for our next show.